So year-over-year data is going to tell you a lot of information. The biggest thing that it tells you, if you pay close attention, deer that sometimes people say are random deer that show up, if they were to pay closer attention, I think they would see that they're not always random deer. They are one that was there before. I've had a couple that I was able to tell because one of them had a double throat patch. Another one had a jacked up ear that it wouldn't stay up, it just was floppy. So it was very, very obvious for these two with the double white patch. And then the characteristics of their antlers. Obviously, there are certain things that, if there's characteristics that they have, a lot of times they carry them. They'll stay with them. But you don't see that until they're a little bit older. 3, maybe you start seeing some things that are different. Sometimes 2, sometimes 1, but usually it's a little bit older where the characteristics of the antlers are a way to say that, yeah, I think that's the same deer. But when you have a double white throat patch or something on their leg or a jacked up ear, something like that, or a scar, or a missing eye, whatever you have that's a characteristic that you can definitely know it's them, those are the ones that I had, and I was able to capitalize on that and get a better understanding and really start honing in. Then I started looking back on other data and be like, man, there was way more deer than I realized that were showing up as a result of the time of the year. They were here because this is where they wanted to be, because this is probably where they had successfully bred a doe. And in the whitetail world, the doe is the one who decides what buck gets the breeder. He doesn't get to pick. If she's the one who has the say. She's gonna be submissive and let it happen to the buck that she chooses. And it's, for whatever reason, however they pick that, they pick it in a way that they feel like their offspring is gonna have the best chance to survive. So whatever determines that, I don't know. I've never delved into that. I don't quite frankly, I don't care. That's not a part of what it doesn't matter to me. But when you understand how that all works and you look at that year-over-year data, it gives you some really cool information. But one of the things that, no matter where the property was, no matter what the terrain type was like, there's always certain things that you can find. Funnels, pinch points, transition lines. Those are all places where you can pull some intel from that will give you a better idea where to be set up. Maybe they're not the place to set up, but that's the place where you would start to pull your data from to learn where to set up. Sometimes they are the place to set up. If you have access in and out of a great funnel, there's no place better to be, in my opinion, this time of the year. I absolutely love hunting funnels that connect big woods or bedding areas, and you just know that these bucks are going to cross through there. If you have a good access in and out, and you can set up on those and hunt those without bookering an area, if you hunt those consistently in the right stretch of days, consistently hunt those stands, sit them as long as you can, stay in there all day if you can, and if you put the time in a certain window, you're going to see a deer that I believe is, if they're there, if you know they're there and you have the data to tell you that they're there, the caliber of deer that you want to connect with will present an opportunity to you if you're in the right place. Now, that comes down with traditional archery like I'm talking about here, that comes down to being in a very precise right place. My effective range is, a 20-yard radius. And if the wind's blowing hard downwind, obviously, it's not probability that that's going to be my option. So my effective range is very, very small. So I'm trying to find places that get me within that 20-yard bubble, 15-yard bubble. That's what I want. So if I'm trying to find places to hunt this time of the year, funnels, pinch points, and transition lines are where I'm starting. And I think a lot of properties have those terrain features or those things that will afford you those opportunities to find some of those places. Maybe some not as obvious as others, but a lot of properties have those types of transitions where you can find, there's a pinch point, there's a funnel. Not all, but some. If they don't have those things and you're hunting a small parcel where it's just a potluck, then you just hunt when the wind allows you to hunt it. You hunt when you have the opportunity to hunt. If you have multiple properties to choose from, obviously it's always going to be playing the wind. That is why it is nice to have a barrage of properties to hunt from. But wind and access are your biggest two driving factors. Those are the two things that will ruin a hunt faster than anything else, is your access in and out, not just in. Just because you can get in and get set up, you gotta be able to get out too. Can't stress that enough. Access in and out has to be right, and then your wind is going to play a huge factor. So if you pay attention to the wind, understand where you need to be, look at the aerial photos of your properties, find those funnels, those pinch points, those benches, those transition lines, like look at a lot of those things. And depending on what apps you use, there's some out there that, you know, you have the Lytle maps where you can look at that and you can pull things out. And then you have others that you have month over month satellite imagery. So if you look at satellite imagery month to month for the past year, let's say, if you go when there's no trees or no leaves on the trees, you're going to see, maybe you'll see some transition lines a little bit better. You'll see where there's some, you know, maybe there's some multifloral rose, or there's some type of evergreens that are growing here that you can clearly see when there's no leaves on the tree. So now I know, okay, I want to go put boots on the ground here, and I want to see what that looks like. What does this translate to? The more you do that, the more you'll be able to do more virtual scouting, because you're going to correlate those things. When you look at something from a video, from a picture of, you know, November or December or January of an aerial photo, and you see what it looks like, and then you go put boots on the ground, and you can say, okay, now I know that from the aerial view it looks like this. When I get boots on the ground, it's multifloral roses. This is what it is. Or it's some kind of mountain laurel or holly or whatever it is. When you look at it on the photo and you put boots on the ground and you do that multiple times, you start to correlate. Okay, I know that's the highly probability that's multifloral rose, or that's, you know, that's a strip of evergreens, or that's a bunch of young saplings that there's a 5-year age gap between when they were planted and when this portion of the forest is planted. Or that's an area that was bush hogged and it's grown back up. So those are all transition lines. Those are all places that deer are going to travel the edge of and likely bed in the thicker part of it, but they're going to be in and out, but they'll run the transition line, especially this time of the year when you have rust. They're going to circle downwind, and the bucks are going to run those transition lines for the bedding areas, and they're going to try to pick up a hot doe. And when they do, they're going to then proceed to try to find her. So that's where scents, calls, things like that, all that comes into play this time of the year. We'll go into another video on scents and calls, one for scents and one for calls. Scents, Conquest Scents is the brand that I use. We'll do a whole bit on them. I have a code. If you're watching this and you made it to this point, if you go to their website, which I'll link down below, you can use code Buckman2025. I'll put that right here also. So you use that code at checkout and you get 15% off anything you buy on the website. So Conquest Scents is a brand that I've been using for a very long time. My calling technique, what I've been doing for a very long time. I've had great success. I've shown people this call sequence and they've had phenomenal success. I've had, I mean, literally hundreds of people reach out to me telling me how this call sequence helped them get their personal best, or get their first buck, or get their biggest buck to date. And I can't express the gratitude. Like, it's a really cool thing to have people reach out to you to tell you that on the back of something that you did or helped them do, or helped them learn to do, it made them be more successful. That is my end game goal. That's mission accomplished for me. So for those of you that take the time to share that, I greatly appreciate it. And I'd love to do some content with those people that have been successful. We can set up, we can do whatever's more comfortable for you. We can do a video call and do it as a live video on different social media platform, whatever one works for you. Or we can do a podcast where we can do a visual, like talking through Zoom for a podcast. We have a podcast. I have a couple different ones, Network Outdoors, and we have another one. It's called The Best Season Is Now, and with me as the host on that one. So we have a couple different options on how we can go through and go over and hear your story and how you did what you did and how you were able to connect. I love doing that. I love talk hunting. I love hearing stories, and I'm going to pick your brain. I'm going to ask you questions throughout the whole process. I'm probably going to interrupt you a lot of times because I'm ADHD, and part of how I grasp things is I hear you telling your story, and if I don't understand something, I'm going to stop you and I'm going to ask you questions about it so I better understand it, make sure I understand it, and then, okay, keep going. So that is something that I would love to do with those people that are willing to, first and foremost, put up with me interrupting you and asking you questions, and two, being willing to share your success stories with others. Maybe they can learn something from you too. Maybe I would love to learn something from anybody I can. Always trying to grow and learn and be better at what you do. So really looking forward to that. I hope this helped you out in some way, some form. And again, if you made it this far, appreciate a follow. Hit the bell for reminders. We're going to be doing more consistent videos here and other platforms as well, but I would appreciate the follow, trying to grow this here. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. God bless. Have a great day on purpose.